Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. Today I'll be showing you how to insert a cuff and blind stitch using a sewing machine. Before cutting out your sleeve, measure the sleeve crown and armhole. Ensure that the sleeve is about 3 centimeters bigger than the armhole for easing. See my previous tutorial on inserting sleeves. Fold the sleeve over as follows. Ensure that the right sides are facing and pin the seam. So 1 centimeter, you can either make a French seam or you can overlock the raw edges. Find the center of the sleeve crown by folding the sleeve in half and clipping the center of the sleeve crown. This will be pinned to the shoulder seam. Set the machine stitch length to the largest stitch and sew close to the edge of the sleeve crown to create ease gathering. Gather the sleeve head slightly before touching it to the armhole. Always iron the sleeve seam before inserting it onto the bodice. Pin the sleeve seam to the bodice side seam and then pin the shoulder seam of the bodice to the center of the sleeve crown. Then you can pin the rest of the sleeve. For further instructions, see my tutorial on how to insert sleeves. I'll be sewing 1 centimeter, ensuring that I even out my easing gathers along the armhole. My sleeve has been completed. I will now hem using a blind stitch method on the sewing machine. My sleeve has a 2 centimeter hem. I will turn the hem over 1 centimeter twice. In this way, the raw edge will be hidden. Turn the hem over twice at 1 centimeter width. Fold the hem back onto the right side of the sleeve. Select the blind stitch on the sewing machine and let the points of the blind stitch catch the folded hem. Number 7 on my sewing machine is the blind stitch. We will now go on to inserting a cuff. To determine the length of the cuff, we will measure the wrist area. Draft the length of the cuff. Measure the wrist for the desired width of the cuff. Mark that measurement above the line you just drew. You are now marking the width of the cuff. Draw in all the marks to complete the width of the cuff. Now you can join the sides of the cuffs to complete it. Just want to darken my lines with my fine liner. Add 1 centimeter seam allowance right around the cuff. Now you are ready to cut out your cuff pattern. You will notice I didn't give it an exact measurement of the cuff. That is because you need to measure around the wrist and the width of the cuff desired. From those measurements you will start to draft your cuff. Just giving my fabric a nice iron so I can get ready to iron my fabric iron-on Vilene. I chose black iron-on Vilene because I have a dark fabric. You can see this grey part, that is where the glue is. So I'll be placing that onto the fabric and I will iron it. This is my fabric iron-on Vilene. As you can see, the grey part is where the glue is. This is my fabric and I will iron it so that the glue can melt onto the fabric and firm it up. When ironing your Vilene onto your fabric, ensure that you don't use any steam. You just need a nice hot iron. Now you can place your cuff pattern onto your fabric which has been Vilened. Fold the fabric in half Pin in place and cut right around. Each sleeve will need 2 cuffs, therefore we will be cutting 4 pieces. As you can see, here are my cuffs, and this is just for the one side of the sleeve. Place the fabric right sides together and pin right around, leaving the top open, which will be attached to the end of the sleeve. Sew the 2 cuffs together using a 1 cm seam allowance. Maintain your corners by leaving your needle into the fabric. Lift your foot, turn and continue sewing. Before turning your cuff over, cut the corners of your cuff so that you can maintain beautiful points. Use a sharp object to push the corners out. Iron all the seams nice and flat. The bias has been cut 4 cm wide. The bias binding will be placed onto the slit of the sleeve. And we'll place the right side of the bias binding onto the wrong side of the slit. Sew 1 cm. When you reach the point, lift up your foot, keep your needle into the fabric. Just move all the excess fabric out of the way. Lower the foot of the machine and continue sewing 1 cm. Fold the binding over twice and top stitch. See my previous tutorials on how to insert bias binding. Fold the binded slit in half and sew diagonally on the end to create a nice point. Gather the bottom of the sleeve to the size of the cuff. The way we insert our cuff is similar to the way we insert binding. Place the right side of the cuff onto the wrong side of the fabric and ensure that each slit is placed in the corner of the cuff. Just pin in place. Even out your gathers nicely and we can continue pinning the rest of the cuff. As you can see, I'm evening out my gathers and just placing my pins. There you go. We're going to sew from one corner to the next. Once we're done, we will do our top stitch, similar to the binding. As you can see, I'm starting on the seam line in the corner, and we're going to sew 1 centimeter. Remember, we can maintain our 1 centimeter seam allowance by following the guide onto your sewing machine. As you can see, my gathers are evened out nicely, and you can see the 1 centimeter seam allowance. Now we can turn it over and do the top stitch. Fold a cuff 1 centimeter, and you can pin in place, and now you're ready for the top stitch. can just give our binding and our cuff a lovely iron, and we're basically done. There's your cuff. We can add a lovely button. See the gathers. In place of gathers, you can also make little pleats as well. Lovely. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was beneficial to you. I hope you are learning a lot from the School of Dress Design Masterclass, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Stay safe, stay well, take care.